pales in comparison to what is occurring right now in the state of California. A horrifying inferno whose danger even now has not passed. But even amongst the tragedy and sadness, there have been incredible moments of human compassion and kindness, neighbors looking after neighbors, charitable contributions pouring into GoFundMe from all areas of the world, mainly the tireless and heroic actions of firefighters in the California region, some of them prisoners fighting with incredible bravery and tenacity. Rescue workers from all over the country. Rescue workers from outside the country. Rescue workers from Mexico. Mexico! Damn your open borders, Biden! Well, I guess they are sending us their best. You want to know how bad it is in California right now? Here's how bad it is.
President Volodymyr Zelensky has offered to send 150 Ukrainian first responders to help battle the massive wildfires.
We're so f***ed that a country that has been relentlessly bombed for almost 3 years was like, you poor bastards. But it is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, of man's ability across cultural and political and religious lines in times of crisis to appeal to our better angels. As Archbishop Desmond Tutu once said, we are made for goodness and love and compassion. Or, as our own president-elect put it,
Trump shared a meme on Truth Social of fires raging behind the Hollywood sign, which was photoshopped to read, Trump was right.
Appropriate. Thank you, Mr. President. I'd almost forgotten your penchant for casual cruelty and dickfoolery. Flames! Nice touch on the graphics. Surely you won't be content with just trolling those in dire need. Surely you also see this as a merch-portunity.
The New York Post posted these images of President-elect Donald Trump driving a golf cart wearing a Trump was right about everything hat.
Trump was right about almost everything. I wouldn't say he was right about the outfit choice. Rule of thumb. Never dress in the same color scheme as the upholstery of your own vehicle. Unless, wait, perhaps Trump has reached his highest form, part man, part golf cart. And apparently, all cholesterol. I guess RFK Jr. Stat. Okay. But Trump is going to troll. The problem now is Republicans appear to want to attach their I told you so's as a condition of funding California's disaster relief.
I expect that there will be strings attached to money that is ultimately approved.
I think there should probably be conditions on that, Dave. That's my personal view.
Before we put funds into place, we've got to find out exactly how we're going to hold these leaders accountable and what sort of policy changes are required.
There can't be a blank check on this.
They don't deserve anything, to be honest with you, unless they show us they're going to make some changes.
What the is wrong with you? Really, Senator? From Alabama? The state near the bottom in math, reading, and test scores. Next time you get hit by a hurricane, why don't we have a little parent-teacher conference to see that if you got your scores up, you would get the money? Or actually, let's not do it, because you'll get the money anyway, because we're not psychos. That is psychotic. There's something wrong with you. And you know what? And here's the thing. I can do the Daily Show thing. I can run down all the congresspeople and senators on the right calling for conditions on disaster aid that absolutely had the opposite view when it was their state on the line.
We need to do everything we can. We have citizens that are literally going to get worse by the day.
Shut the up. Because I could do it, but it doesn't even matter. I'm not even going to do it because red states are always the tragic victims of circumstance outside of their control. And Democrats always vote for their aid, whereas blue state disasters are a function of their flawed morality and policy. And if we help blue state survivors, well, what message will that send? What lesson will they learn? But fine, if strings must be attached, what be the strings?
The problem with California is forestry management.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I didn't. It's true. The management of the forest. You have to rake the leaves and shut down the illegal elf tree cookie factory. I understand. And what a great, utterly anodyne suggestion. I mean, what forest couldn't be managed better? I mean, if you've been to a forest lately, chaos. It's chaos. It's the dirt and leaves and what is that? Bear shit, I'm sure. I want to see the manager. Okay, so we get the money if we have better forest management. Everybody then gets food and clothes. What else?
They've not done the necessary work to make sure there's fresh water flowing into key areas.
Oh, water. Yeah, no question. No question. Water for the fire. I'm going to get that message to the firefighters. Toot sweet. Water is so important. Water is a terrific fire. I don't even want to say the R word. But as I always say, what do you got there, mister? A fire? Nothing like water. Water works on all kinds of fire, except for one kind of fire, but I don't know which one that is. But odds are with you. Point taken. But forest management and get some water up here, and then your children may have blankets. These are all great pointers on how to mitigate fires, and I'm sure California has absolutely been trying. Water and forest management, maybe not good enough, but they have it. There's one thing you might not be considering as you criticize them, and that's this. I don't know what kind of a system you can develop that completely mitigates the risk of fire, plus drought conditions, plus 60 to 80 mile per hour winds, plus delicious wood. Look at this. Look what's happening right there. Do you see this? Fire to tornado. Rake your way out of that. You understand? I love the blame game. I love the blame game. I play it all the time. But the fires aren't out. And the fire to tornado. The only thing that would stop that is the absence of oxygen. Which, if I'm being honest, we could do. Hear me out. There's something called a cloche. A cloche is a covering. You've probably seen it in pie shops. You can put a cloche. Now, if I'm just very quickly, guys, that's the continental-sized cloche that we had on a previous program suggested for immigration reform. We need a little more casual. Guys, can you check on the sideboard behind the gravy frigates? It's not. If it's not there, it's under the sink. The California. That's it. The California cloche. Airtight. It's the best way to smother a Los Angeles-sized fire. And if you live in New Jersey, keep a pie fresh in a diner for 8 to 9 years. The cloche. I am going to make cloche happen. Years from now. And then I'm going to get a hat that says, Jon Stewart was right about everything. Hey, look. Hey, all you idiots are dead. Told you so. But these people don't actually care. They're not actually trying to find a solution. They're just trying to work their pet issues into this tragic situation. It's confusing, but thankfully some people are being more explicit in their conspiracy theories.
On X, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene asked, why don't they use geoengineering, like cloud seeding, to bring rain down on the wildfires in California? They know how to do it.
Who is they, Margaret? Are you perhaps referring to the they-ish people? Is that? Is that what it is, Margaret? The very same people that control the area on fire? Why would they, destroy the very industry they control? When we also have the means to bring the rains. We have space lasers, and we can bring rain. The clues are there, Margaret. Alex knows.
Alex Jones wrote that Los Angeles fires are part of a larger globalist plot to wage economic warfare and deindustrialize the United States before triggering total collapse.
Oh. All right, well, it's Alex Jones. He is certainly known for this type of thinking. I don't believe anyone is going to be taken in by this type of post.
Elon Musk responded to that post by writing, "True."
Sad. But unfortunately, a lot of the information that's out there is not correct. And because of poor forest management, that information just jumps, igniting into larger and larger nonsense infernos that coincidentally seem to reinforce whatever grudge any of these folks have against California, especially their ideology.
When you hear stories about state of Oregon sending 60 fire trucks, I haven't confirmed that myself yet, but they had to go to Sacramento to get emissions testing, get them to LA where they're needed. I mean, this is woke gone wild kind of stuff.
Oh, woke gone wild. I remember those VHS tapes. Spring breakers, reading the autobiography of Malcolm X and putting on more clothes. Getting catcalled. Show us your privilege! By the way, as far as what he was saying, the whole thing is bullshit. The fire trucks were not sent to Sacramento to get emissions testing. They were sent there to be transitioned into minivans without their parents' consent. That's what happened. But man, if there is one thing harder to extinguish than the fires, it is the most resilient of the right's talking points.
The whole thing is a complete disaster. A lot of it comes back to DEI.
Kristen Crowley, the fire chief in Los Angeles, she is a very silly woman. The first gay female fire chief ever. Wow.
Under her is Christina Kepner, first lesbian assistant chief. Then under her is Christine Larson. They're all Christina. She's also a lesbian. Christina, lesbian.
What? What are you doing? You just summoned them. Do you understand? You can't just say the name 3 times. Do you know what you just unleashed onto this earth? From now on, it's just infernos and lesbian firefighters. By the way, I'm not sure Megan with a Y should be criticizing people named Christina. But apparently to the right, drought conditions, high winds, and densely stacked flammable structures were all fine until they added the lesbians. And then something peculiar happened.
What is your message to city administrators, starting with Mayor Bass?
My message is the fire department needs to be properly funded.
And it's not.
It's not at this point.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you?
Yes.
We need to be fully funded and supported so that our firefighters can do their jobs.
Lesbian firefighter has attacked Black Lady Mayor. Who will the right support? In this opposite of a Sophie's choice. Really, I mean, in the hierarchy of DEI crimes, Black Lady Mayor, lesbian firefighter, I don't know which one of those is there. I want to say white whale, but that'd be wrong. Look, I'm not suggesting that DEI is not responsible for at least 99% of this tragedy. But devil's advocate. This is the Palisades in 1923. And that's not after a fire. It's just dead. It's like a desert. And someone decided to build a city there, a densely populated, albeit beautiful city, in the middle of it. That's what they did. And I'm going to guess that the person whose idea it wasn't a lesbian firefighter or a black lady mayor. We didn't even have lesbians back then until one snuck here from France in 1934. So stop with the DEI. Oh, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. The meritocracy built that city. The meritocracy created the dangerous conditions that made a tragedy like this almost inevitable. Don't take my word for it. I know the liberal argument sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher to your ear. Let me get someone who speaks to your frequency.
So I was talking to this guy, and he was telling me, he goes, dude, one day, he goes, it's just going to be the right wind, and fire's going to start in the right place, and it's going to burn through L.A. all the way to the ocean, and there's not a thing we can do about it.
Now, of course, he did go on to say, lesbians will make it worse. But the point is, man, we are humans. We build shit in difficult areas on the belief that we will figure out how to subdue God and nature. For God's sakes, 50 years they made a movie about what a dumb idea it would be to develop this city into the country's second largest metro area. Even they knew LA wasn't a good place to raise your daughter or your sister.
She's my daughter. My sister, my daughter.
Movies were wild in the 70s. Like, you could do anything in movies. Like, there's no, like, slap court. Like, literally in that, they're like, Jack, do it again, this time with your fist. Like, they didn't give a Sometimes things happen that are beyond the bounds of human infrastructure, although admittedly, the LA powers that be have not covered themselves in glory at this time.
Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL.
Look, I'm not saying she's Churchill, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry, when the bombs start falling, don't worry, just insert useful information here. So yeah, improvements can be made in leadership, in management, in design, in materials, in myriad ways. But sometimes fire fucks a tornado and makes a mockery of human infrastructure and our ability to dictate the terms of our existence on this planet. But the one thing it shouldn't dictate is the cruelty that we would show to those in pain because we don't think they consistently vote right.
Today, the Senate held its first confirmation hearing for Pete Hegseth, Trump's nominee for defense secretary and dude who makes sure everyone at the frat house has their stories straight. Now, since he was nominated a couple months ago, we found out a lot about Hegseth, and most of it does not inspire confidence. He's been accused of sexual assault. He was accused of nearly running a veterans group into the ground, and he has a documented history of excessive drinking, which we learned even more about today.
A Hegseth acquaintance describes a breakfast they had with Hegseth in the spring of 2023. We met at Fox News in New York for breakfast, and he suggested we go across the street to a bar. It was like 10 in the morning. Then he ordered 2 gin and tonics at the same time for himself. Then he had a 3rd gin and tonic.
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa, Hegseth is rolling up to breakfast like, I'll have the steel-cut oatmeal and 3 gin and tonics, please. You know what they say, beer before liquor, never been sicker. Liquor before liquor, I'll have another liquor. This definitely raises some questions for the person you may want to put in charge of the nukes. So, let's jump into today's confirmation hearing. And you know what, I'm not saying he showed up drunk, but it did start at 10 a.m. So how about we start with a quick sobriety test? You know, something simple. Pete, how about name your kids?
Our 7 wonderful kids, Gunnar, Jackson, Peter Boone, Kensington, Luke, Rex. Sorry, it's a lot of them. And Gwendolyn.
Okay. Little tipsy, okay. Big deal. All right, no biggie. My dad was always mixing up me and my siblings' names, and he launched perfectly successful counteroffensive rapid deployment amphibious incursions into Iran all the time. Although Pete probably should have given his kids names he could remember more easily. Maybe like Don Julio, Jim Beam, Johnny Walker, Jose Cuervo, and don't forget little Michael Hard Lemonade. Anyway, now that that's over, it's time for the grilling. Republicans, I know he's your guy, but I also know you love the military, so I'm sure you've got some hard questions for the man who wants to run it.
Why do you want to do this job? What drives you? Tell me something about your wife that you love. How many push-ups can you do?
Follow-up question, sir. I have this jar. Could a big, strong man like yourself open it? Okay, but Democrats made up for those softballs with a couple pitches that were really high and inside.
I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you? You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017, and you were still married and you just had a child by another woman. Again, how do you explain your judgment? You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. But you didn't reveal any of this to President Trump. Why didn't you inform the commander-in-chief of the transition team of this very relevant event?
Oh, damn! Tim Kaine went full Maury Povich out there, huh? Wow. Tim Povich. Although, come on, Tim, come on. You're asking why didn't Hegseth tell Trump about how many times he cheated on his wife? Maybe because if he did, Trump would high-five him so hard it would break both their hands. Okay, that was a pretty wild line of questioning from Tim Kaine. Any Republican want to jump to his defense here?
How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because a man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke.
Give me a joke. Okay. How about a priest, a rabbi, and Pete Hegseth walk into a bar at 10 a.m. Are you happy now, Mark Wayne? Huh? Well, I don't know if this was really the defense that Hegseth wanted, though. Look, we're all pieces of shit here. Let he without an Ashley Madison premium account cast the first stone. I'll tell you who else probably didn't appreciate that defense. The other senators. They probably got home and their wives were like, I saw Mark Wayne at the confirmation hearing today. He said that everyone in the Senate cheats on their wives. Honey, you can't trust Mark Wayne. He's confused. The man has 2 first names smushed together. It's insanity. Okay, but after that, they did, in fact, get into Hegseth's policy positions. And there was one in particular policy that had people very worked up.
You previously have made a series of inflammatory statements about women in combat.
And on a recent podcast, you said, quote, I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles.
You say, we need moms, but not in the military, especially in combat units. What's wrong with a mom, by the way? Once you have babies, you therefore are no longer able to be lethal?
Yeah. Are you saying moms can't be lethal? Does the name Casey Anthony mean nothing to you? Yes. Hegseth has a long record of insisting that women have no place in combat. And you know what? I'm sorry, libs, but that's just the way Pete is. Maybe he's not good at leadership or management or money or vows or driving home past 10 a.m. But the one thing he does is stand his ground. Tell him, Pete, no women in combat roles.
Let's make it very clear for everyone here today. As Secretary of Defense, will you support women continuing to have the opportunity to serve in combat roles?
Yes, women will have access to ground combat roles.
From Washington, D.C., The Flash, apparently official, at 11:25 Standard Time, Pete Hegseth went woke. You know, perhaps the most damning comment about Pete Hegseth came from Pete Hegseth himself when he was explaining what the military needs in its leadership.
The DEI policies of today are not putting meritocracy first. Every single senior officer will be reviewed based on meritocracy. Getting anything that doesn't contribute to meritocracy out of how decisions are made inside the Pentagon, ensuring readiness and meritocracy is front and center. Meritocracy, meritocracy, meritocracy.
Oh, I know what his next kid's gonna be named. You heard him, though. You heard him, folks. A military cannot function unless it's staffed by a system based on pure merit, where only the most qualified people rise to the top. So says your next Secretary of Defense, who will run the most complicated, powerful, deadly organization the world has ever known, and whose only qualification is that Trump liked watching him sit on a couch on Saturday mornings. But listening to Republicans today, it seems like that's going to be enough to get him confirmed.
I just want to say, for all the talk of experience and not coming from the same cocktail parties that permanent Washington is used to, you are a breath of fresh air.
Well, that's not what the breathalyzer said, but okay. Let's kick things off with the big news of the day.
At long last, I can announce a ceasefire and a hostage deal has been reached between Israel and Hamas.
Huzzah! Whoa! Yeah! What a historic moment. Joe Biden articulately got through a sentence. And also a ceasefire. And the timing couldn't be better for Biden. There's still time for him to win Michigan, so... Now, we're in the early stages of figuring out what this means, and we'll be following it closely. But for now, let's talk about another crisis just as serious as what's happening in the Middle East. I'm talking about TikTok, a.k.a. the reason your thumb is so frickin' jacked. I find that genuinely disturbing. TikTok is the hottest app in the U.S., and next week, it's f***ing gone.
First, a story that is on a lot of people's minds this morning, the looming shutdown of TikTok here in the U.S.
Yeah, a federal ban on this popular Chinese-owned app is set to take effect on Sunday.
The argument from the U.S. government is that TikTok presents a national security risk and that the Chinese-owned company is stealing user data.
Y'all, we are so indescribably cooked.
I know the government's argument is, oh, we want to protect your data. You and the data, bitch!
The United States has done a lot of stupid things. This has to be number one.
That's the number one worst thing? I mean, we did slavery in America. I mean, let's at least call it a tie, shall we? TikTok users are upset about this, but there's not much they can do. Congress passed a bill, the president signed it, and the Supreme Court seems ready to rule that the ban is constitutional, which I don't think we can be surprised by, because this is not exactly TikTok's core demographic. I mean, they're more of a Walgreens app type of crowd. They're old and sickly, is what I'm saying. I mean, the last time the Supreme Court heard the sound tick-tock was when death was following RBG around. Although, there's still a chance that TikTok can be saved before the Costco guys are euthanized on Sunday. So TikTok would be allowed to keep operating if it's sold to an American owner, and there's no shortage of interest.
New names are surfacing as potential buyers for the platform, including Elon Musk.
Mr. Beast has joined the bid to buy TikTok.
Former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin previously launched an effort to buy it, and Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary says he and other investors are also making a play.
Yes! There is still a chance TikTok could be sold to one of America's many rich weirdos. Apparently, Lex Luthor wasn't available. So this is the best America has to offer. I mean, I actually heard myself say, man, I hope that TikTok goes to someone sane, like Mr. Beast. I mean, can't there be one cool potential buyer? Shaquille O'Neal, I'm talking to you. Stop buying so many Papa John's franchises and get real about your investment future. The trad wives and the big-headed bitches with the trench coats buttoned up to the top need you. But if no American buyer emerges, there's still one more wild card. The wild card. Donald Trump. Now, he tried to ban TikTok during his first term, but he's now trying to save the app. And you'll never guess why he had a change of heart.
I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And there are those that say that TikTok had something to do with it.
I was on TikTok for the election, and I won the young people by 36 points. I'm not opposed to TikTok.
That's right. TikTok helped Trump, so now TikTok is good. And by the way, if you're wondering whether Trump won the youth vote by 34 points or 36 points, the answer is he lost the youth vote by 11 points. Just a slight discrepancy right there. Just basically the same thing. So all this is up in the air. But TikTok users are not waiting around to find out how this is going to play out.
Amid fear a TikTok ban could take effect later this week, some Americans flocking to Chinese apps like RedNote.
I'm a TikTok refugee.
And Lemon8. Both apps have similarities to TikTok, and Lemon8 shares a parent company, ByteDance.
RedNote is owned and operated by the Chinese Communist Party, and users must agree to adhere to the Chinese Constitution, practice socialist values, and promote the traditional culture of China.
Yeah! Good job, U.S. government. You told Americans they couldn't see China anymore, and now they're running off to Vegas with it. I mean, this has got to be so frustrating for Kamala. She just spent a whole election fighting accusations that she's a socialist, and now every American is like, I would literally pledge to be a Chinese socialist for a good TikTok replacement. The question is, why would Americans be so cavalier about the threat of China spying? Maybe it's because after years of receiving monthly emails about how every American company has lost or stolen our data, we've become cynical about the concept of privacy. Or maybe we actually get off on knowing China is spying on us the whole time. Maybe it's gotten so bad I can't even enjoy a cat video anymore unless I know Xi Jinping is watching me from some digital cuck chair in the corner. So, looks like this new app, RedNote, is exploding. And the last time something from China went this viral was... It's not important. But when do you see what people are discovering once they're on it?
One thing that I've noticed since being on RedNote for like the last 2 days is how much more advanced the Chinese culture is than what I had in my brain.
Most of these Chinese people, they look so much less traumatized than most Americans. I am no longer convinced that we are living in a first world country.
While lurking on RedNote, I found out about this car. We can't sell this car because it's Chinese. Look how cute it is. They sell it in pink. It's like $15,000, which is affordable.
I made a new bestie. She ended up going to the market and sent me a picture of her local market, corn on the cob, 94 cents. What would it be here in America, you might ask? $7. Is this what they don't want us to know?
That's not a good sign for America. I was made to think a communist dictator was bad, but check out these corn prices. Daddy likey. Come on, America, fight back. If Chinese people show you their cheap corn, you show them a robust free press. Okay, no, okay. Or you show them our fair and impartial justice. Not that, okay? Dave and Buster's. Show them our Dave and Buster's. Hell yeah, in your commie faces. A lot of people are worried about a second Trump presidency. So, last night's farewell address was a chance for the president to offer the nation some comfort.
President Biden, in his final farewell address from the Oval Office, delivered a stunning warning to the nation on his way out.
The potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that could pose real dangers. An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the encouragement, Mr. President. I'm shitting my pants in comfort. Look, I know you've only got a few days left, but don't just give us problems. Maybe offer some solutions, you know? There's a dangerous threat of oligarchy from a rich elite, and that's why I'm pardoning Luigi Mangione. Go get him, Tiger. Spitballing. We're spitballing here. Yes, Biden used his last speech as president to warn us about a new American oligarchy. And you can tell the message hit home because of how many people, and this is true, how many people immediately went to Google to search, what is oligarchy? And weirdly, Google responded, don't worry about it. It turns out, you don't need to Google oligarchy to understand what it actually looks like. Just tune in to the inauguration this Monday.
NBC News is now reporting that Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg will all three attend Donald Trump's inauguration next week.
The CEOs of Apple and Google will be there.
Sam Altman from OpenAI.
TikTok CEO Shou Chew.
He was invited to sit on the dais where former presidents and family traditionally sit.
Woo! That is right. Facebook's at the inauguration. Google, Amazon, the CEO of Zoom will be there wearing a suit top, short bottoms. CEO of Uber will be there in 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. You know what? They're looking for a new CEO. Even the CEO of Vine will be there. I mean, he'll be panhandling outside, but he'll be near there. But the inauguration guest list can't just be billionaires who get off reading your DMs. There has to be more. I mean, who else is Trump inviting to watch him take the oath of office?
Performing at Trump's inauguration will be familiar names from his campaign, including Kid Rock, Lee Greenwood, and the Village People.
First responders from Butler County, Pennsylvania, where Trump survived that first assassination attempt, will march in the parade. And the Maga garbage truck that went viral during the campaign will reportedly hit the streets of Washington, D.C. during the Inauguration Day parade.
Whoa! Trump's bringing back all the characters from the campaign like it's the Seinfeld finale. We're going to be watching from home like, look, it's the cats and dogs from Springfield, huh? And they're wearing Trump's ear bandage. I mean, they're even bringing the garbage truck. He used it as a prop in one campaign stunt, and now it's going to be in the parade. I mean, it's not even going to drive itself. It's going to ride in the back of a limo. I mean, now that this garbage truck is a Maga celebrity, the sky is the limit. It's going to get its own right-wing podcast, join the White House staff, then every Trump sycophant is going to start sucking up to it, then finally reporters will catch the truck getting a hand job from Kimberly Guilfoyle in the Rose Garden. Tale as old as time. But I will say, this inauguration list must be so embarrassing for anyone who didn't get an invite. I mean, Sean Spicer's going to be like, does anyone know if the garbage truck has a +1? You know what, let's move on, because while the new presidency is about to begin, there's a frenzy of activity happening at the end of the current presidency. Yesterday, President Biden announced a breakthrough in the war in the Middle East. Phase 1 of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And what I found really uplifting is that we finally sealed the deal.
New reporting this morning that there was extraordinary cooperation between the outgoing and incoming administrations.
The New York Times reports there was coordination between both presidential teams and that each directed their advisors to work together to push Israel and Hamas over the finish line.
Look at this. Look at this. You see this? This is truly inspiring. Two administrations, two rivals working together to make the world a better place, focusing on what's important, creating peace in the world. Not petty fights over who gets the credit.
Does this deal belong to Biden or Trump? Who do you give credit to?
It could not have happened without Trump.
This is President Biden's negotiation.
If Donald Trump wasn't elected in November, none of this would have been happening.
This credit goes to Joe Biden. Joe Biden
Not
is
100%. That's not fair.
Babel! Come on, what is all this arguing about? There's enough credit for everyone who deserves it. The presidents, the diplomats, and most importantly, everyone who changed their profile pics. You're welcome. Hey, what else do you expect from the media? Stirring up drama is their thing. I'm sure the two statesmen at the heart of the negotiations are content to share the credit.
President-elect Trump wasted no time angling for credit on the ceasefire deal we've been talking about this morning, posting on his social media site that, quote, this epic ceasefire agreement could have only happened as a result of our historic victory in November.
How much credit do you give to the Trump team for this deal? Trump is already taking credit for it.
Well, this is the exact framework of the deal I proposed back in May. Exact.
First off, Joe, I don't think that's the brag you think it is. Everyone's been ignoring this thing since May. Then something happened. I don't know. And Donald, can you just throw this man a bone, please? Haven't you done enough to poor Joe? You took his second term. You took his legacy. You took his wife to go see Baby Girl together. Can't you just share a little credit with him? But guys, a little perspective here. The important thing isn't who gets credit. The important thing is that after over a year of war, we finally have a ceasefire.
A new wrinkle in the hostage ceasefire deal.
Israel's war cabinet a short time ago delayed a vote to officially ratify the deal because they say Hamas has reneged on some parts of the agreement.
Like I said, the important thing is we thought about having a ceasefire. And what a fun couple of hours it was.